What's going on, my friends? Today we're taking a look at the Shadow and Cold Twisting Blades rogue build for Diablo 4. Twisting Blades is one of the strongest skills in the rogue's arsenal, which is capable of dishing out ridiculous damage with critical hits in the multi-millions. Combine that with being able to go into stealth mode, drop 4 poison traps with Shadow-imbued Twisting Blades, and it's game over for anything in front of you. This is one of the hardest hitting rogue builds in the game, and you can play this from level 1 all the way into the end game. You can run this build in the tier 50s and 60s for nightmare dungeons with ease. It does start to get a bit rough in the tier 70s, but with that said, not many builds right now can push past the 70s for rogue in the current state. If you enjoy the stealthy rogue playstyle that can easily crit in the multi-millions and carry you in those higher tier nightmare dungeons, then hang on, grab a drink, because I'm about to show you how to build the Shadow Cold Twisting Blades rogue. We're going to go over skill tree points, gear, aspects, gems, paragon points, glyphs, and basic damage combos. But before we get into it, please make sure you give the video a like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help the channel with the YouTube algorithms, and it would be greatly appreciated. Let's jump into the skill tree. Basic skill is Puncture along with Fundamental Puncture, because Puncture slows enemies every third cast, and Fundamental Puncture makes everybody vulnerable for 2 seconds, which means they're taking more damage. Core skills, we're putting 3 points into Sturdy, 3 into Siphoning Strikes, 5 into Twisting Blades, and go over to Advanced Twisting Blades so we can get those active cooldowns on all of our abilities. Agility skills, put 3 into Weapon Mastery. You'll see I have 6. 3 of those are coming from my gear. We'll get into that in a little bit. Now put 1 into Shadow Step. And up on these subnodes, this is what I consider a flex spot, meaning it's not going to alter the build too much, but it will alter your playstyle and what you actually prefer. I prefer Disciplined Shadow Step because it reduces the cooldown and brings the Shadow Step down to about 5.5–6 seconds. However, if you prefer stunning the enemy, then go ahead and take Methodical Shadow Step. Subterfuge skills, we have 3 into Exploit, 3 into Malice, 1 into Agile, and 3 into Mending Obscurity. So, every time you go into concealment, you stealth yourself for 4 seconds. While you are stealth, you heal for 9% max life every second. That is a 36% heal every time you go into stealth mode. Now, speaking of concealment, let's put 5 there, move over to countering stealth so we get that guaranteed critical strike every time we break concealment. Now, moving over to Poison Trap, we put 1 into Poison Trap and also into countering Poison Trap so we get that 30% chance to reset the imbuement skills on cooldown. Imbuement skills, we have 3 into Frigid Finesse. These are the 3 most important points you will spend out of this entire build. Doesn't look like a lot on the tooltip. You deal 15% increased damage to chilled enemies. This bonus increases to 30% to frozen. However, when you combine this with the aspects, the gear we have on, and the way we've set up our Paragon points, those percentages jump into the multi-100%. So don't skip out on these 3 points right here. Very, very important. Now we have 1 into Shadow Crash, 2 into Consuming Shadows, so we never have to worry about energy. Every time we kill an enemy with Shadow, we generate 20 energy, and we're basically killing every enemy with Shadow. For our ultimate skills, we have 3 into Adrenaline Rush and 3 into Haste. And for our key passive, this is another flex spot like I spoke about earlier. Now, for 99.9% of the game, I would say choose Close Quarters Combat. This was recently buffed. It gives you attack speed bonuses and increases your damage by 30%. That is a massive, massive buff to your damage. However, if you are in a very high tier dungeon, 60s or above, you're going to need a little bit more survivability, and that's when momentum comes in handy. So depending on what you're doing, these are the 2 you'd want to go with. Taking a look at our gear, what you want on the helm is max life and also the aspect that gives you a basic damage reduction of 20%. On the chest piece, you're also looking for max life, but what you want to put here for your aspect is damage reduction from crowd-controlled enemies. Every enemy you attack will be crowd-controlled with your traps, chill, and frozen. For our gloves, we're using Frostburn, and we use this for a very specific reason. We want to freeze enemies as much as possible when they are frozen, and we hit them with Shadow Imbuement. They do massive amounts of damage. However, if you don't have Frostburn yet, look for gloves that have plus ranks of twisted blades. This will greatly impact your damage ability. It won't go as high as Frostburn. These will drop for you at some point if you don't have them, but if you don't have them, just get that plus ranks of twisted blades for now. Legs, we're using Temerity. If you don't have Temerity yet, go with some legs and put the aspect on that gives you a barrier every time you damage an elite enemy. For our boots, we're using Paragon Glyphs. This is best in slot, no doubt about it right now. If you don't have them, just go with a pair of boots that have extra evades. That's all you really need right now. This will send your damage through the roof, however, so just keep that in mind. If you don't have them yet, your damage will be lower. Once you get these boots, you equip them, you upgrade it, your damage will go through the roof at that point. For our crossbow, you're looking for critical strike damage, and you want the Twisted Blades aspect so you can get that extra 60% damage. Taking a look at our amulet, what you want here is plus ranks of Frigid Finesse along with the aspect that gives you added armor. If you put that added armor in this slot right here, it gives you up to 75% added armor. That is huge for survivability in Nightmare Dungeons. If you are not doing high tier Nightmare Dungeons, all you really need here, and it makes the build feel so much faster, is put the aspect that increases your attack speed when you get a critical strike with a core skill. Taking a look at the rings, what you want on your rings is critical strike damage, critical strike chance, and max life, along with the aspect of when you're coming out of stealth, you're immediately stunning the enemy, therefore they're taking more damage. For our other ring, we're looking for max life and critical strike chance, along with having the aspect for poison trap. This is the most important aspect out of the entire build. You must have this in order for this build to succeed. This brings it all together. This allows you to drop those 4 traps without breaking stealth. Melee weapons, we have Condemnation here. Now, if you don't have Condemnation, look for either a dagger or sword that amplifies your critical strike damage. Our other melee weapon, what you want here is plus dexterity, plus critical strike damage, and plus damage to close enemies, along with the aspect that when attacking an enemy with a basic skill, increases the damage of your core skill, which is Twisting Blades. So these two combined are massively increasing your Twisting Blades damage. So when you add up all of your gear, what you want to be looking for is having a critical strike chance above 30%, so you can rely on your hits making sure that they are critting. Because of the way we have our Paragon board set up, those crit hits deal massive amounts of damage. So try to get your gear and your critical strike chance above 30%. For our gems, we go with damage reduction on our gear, we go with critical strike damage on our weapons, and we go with armor on our amulet and rings. For specialization, we go with combo points, so we amplify the Twisting Blades damage. Taking a look at our Glyph and Paragon boards. Now, this is the starting board. Pause the video at any time, fill the little nodes in. Now, what we have here for our Glyph is Closer. We want to add damage to Twisting Blades as much as possible, and that's exactly what Closer does. So we have a big damage increase here with Closer for Twisting Blades. Our second board is Exploit Weakness, and with the Glyph we are using here works perfectly with the Paragon Glyph boots we have. Now, Frost Feeder amplifies your chilled damage, and it amplifies it dramatically. In my case, it's up to 118% yet. I don't even have that Glyph maxed out, so that's going to go even higher. Taking a look at the third board, what we have here is Tricks of the Trade. Now, your Marksman skill grants your next Cutthroat skill 25% increased damage, and vice versa. So basically, you always have a 25% damage bonus just by going with this Paragon board. Now, on top of that, we're using Chip, which amplifies the physical damage of Twisting Blades, which is an additional 75% in my case. For our fourth Paragon board, we go with Leirana's Instinct, and the Glyph we are using is Combat. As I spoke about earlier, we want to have a high critical strike chance, so we can rely on that high damage when we do critically strike. And if we have it above that 30%, you can rely that you are going to hit into the millions every time you critically strike. For the 5th board, we are using Deadly Ambush. This adds more increased critical strike damage to enemies affected by our trap skills, along with the Glyph Exploit to add more vulnerable damage. For our 6th and final board, we go a Cheap Shot. This increases the damage to crowd-controlled enemies by 25%. And I have a few more points I need to get in order to unlock this glyph, but if you have this unlocked already, I would absolutely go with Turf. This will increase your damage to close targets. For our basic damage combo, the first thing you want to do is make sure you have Shadow applied to your weapons. When you're ready to go in for an attack, go into Concealment, drop 4 traps, hit Puncture 3 times to get your combo points, hit Twisting Blades, and everything dies. That is going to wrap up the Shadow and Cold Twisting Blades Rogue build for Diablo 4. If you guys enjoyed the video or learned something new, please consider supporting the channel by liking, commenting, or subscribing so you don't miss any future Diablo 4 videos. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I'm out.